Hello. When trying to transfer files between machines, there are a few methods that can be used. While the best way is to use FTP, sometimes this is not possible. I'll be showing two easy ways to transfer files. In order to follow along, you're going to need some machines, some virtual machines. I would recommend having three machines, one being a Linux machine running Apache 2, and then two Windows machines. However, you can make do uh, with just two machines uh, by either installing some sort of web server on a Windows machine or installing PowerShell onto a Linux machine. The first method we're going to discuss is using PowerShell. While PowerShell is available for Linux, it is not common to install it. However, on all modern Windows systems, assuming that the administrator has not disabled PowerShell, you can find it. This makes it perfect to transfer files between machines, especially since it bypasses a web browser's native malware protection. So I'm going to first open up my Linux machine running a web server, and if I just run this command, you can see that Apache is currently running. You can create a file using Touch, but I've already made one. You can see right here, and that's the file we're going to be trying to download. Now moving on to a Windows machine. Open up. There we go. You're going to want to open up PowerShell. I would recommend running it as administrator, especially since something else we'll be doing later requires administrator access. I'm going to first uh, change my directory into uh, users cookie, and then I will run the command. First, you're going to want to type in your URI. And you're going to want to also have the name of your output file there, the file that you're trying to transfer. This is simply creating a variable for your PowerShell to use. Make sure that you do have the HTTP as well as the IP address of the web server that is hosting your file. Next, you're going to want to do path, type out the destination of the file that you're downloading. And for my purposes, I'm just going to do // and test file 3.txt since I do not want to rename it. Next, you're going to want to do invoke web request URI. Then you can use your variable. Then out file. Now, when working with Windows commandlets, you're going to want to pay close attention to the capitalization. Oftentimes, uh, the commandlet is case sensitive and will not work uh, if you put like a lowercase I there or have the arguments be lowercase. running it. Here we go. And you can see now I have my test file that I made. So that is a very easy way, especially when you have a web server that's currently hosting it. Now, what if you don't have a web server that's hosting it uh, for whatever reason? As long as you do have administrative permissions, as well as a couple other permissions, there is a way for you to actually transfer files between two machines that have PowerShell, such as two Windows machines. For to show this, I'm going to have my two Windows machines up. Other one out. Again. All right, and I already have two test files to demonstrate as well. You're going to want to open up PowerShell as administrator in this one as well. I'm going to cd into users Panther. All right, so this one is a bit more complex. First step, you're going to want to run win rm quick config. You're going to want to do this on both machines. All right. Next, on the machine that you plan to start the session on, you're going to want to run winrm set winrm/config/client, and then you're going to add the IP address of the machine that you're trying to connect to. It's IP. So if I do IP config, I can see the IP address of this machine. So I'm going to do winrm set winrm config client single quote at sign curly bracket trusted host equals quotation marks 10.11.12.7. Then close everything out. It's been added to the trusted host. Back on the machine that you're trying to connect to, run enable es remoting dash force. This one might take a little bit to finish. So while that's finishing, you can go back to the machine that you're trying to use as a client and run a couple of commands to set some variables. Do percent sign, or not percent, dollar sign, username equals, and then you're going to want to type the remote username. So in my case, this is Panther. You're gonna want to make sure that this is in quotes. You're setting variables. Password. Then you're going to need the remote user's password. For the Panther machine, it is vibranium with some special symbols. Next one you're going to want to set is the string or security string. Sex string equals new object type name system security secure string. Then you're going to want to set password dot to character array. Type it for each object. Then sec string end character $sign underscore. Close it out. Thread equals new object. Take a note that this is now lowercase. System management automation. PS credential argument list. The username variable, comma, space, sec string variable. There's one last variable you need to set. As $B. It can really be anything, but I'm using B as the variable. Equals new PS session, then the IP address of the machine you're trying to connect to, base credential, credential variable. Now you should be able to connect. You should be able to send files between them. So if I cd into my desktop, I can now see what's on there. Does not want to show what's on there. In that case, alright. Since it does not want to show what's on there, I'm going to create a new file to test. You can create, unfortunately, it is a little more tricky to create a file in PowerShell than it is in Linux. In Linux, you can just use touch. However, for PowerShell, you're going to need to use new item type file name. And I'm just going to do test file to.txt and enter. Now I have my test file. Similarly, I'm going to go and create a new item on the other machine. Name this one test file 1. A slight mistake. And there we go. Now I got first test file. Now, back on the machine that you're using as a client, you can run copy item from session, then the variable you used for the session, C, and then you're going to need to type out the full file path of the file that you're trying to download. Test file one.txt. Then you're going to need destination, and I'm just going to put this in users low-key test file one.txt. As you see, now I have test file 1. Now, if I want to send a file, let's say uh, test file 2, I can use pretty much the same command, but with some slight modifications. I'm going to use to session, and I'm going to use to Loki here and test file 2. Push this out with test file 2 and enter, and there you go. You're able to transfer files between the systems as you please now. Now, let's say you have Netcat. Uh, it is not currently installed on Windows typically, but it can. Uh, but it is very common to find it on something like a Linux machine. If I go here, I might actually have it. Well, I do not have it. I do not have that one, but I do have this one. So the difference between this is Nmap's version of Netcat, and this is the original version of Netcat. Either one works. You can really pick and choose which one you want. Now you can install one of those onto a Windows machine, but for the sake of time, I will not be doing that. I will just be using my two uh, Ubuntu machines that currently already have it installed. This I do have it installed. All right, to transfer files using Netcat. Make sure that you have your two machines that are capable of running Netcat. Again, this can be Linux or you can install it on Windows uh, and have some sort of file that you want to transfer. So I'm just going to do touch test file, call it 4, and then sure, let's create that. This is the file that I want to transfer. On the receiving end, I want to transfer it to this machine. Type in nc-l, which tells it to listen, -p, which is a port, and do any port that you want. I'd recommend something like a high port or something that's not really going to be used at all, just to make sure that there isn't any conflicts. And then do your output file. So test file. I'm actually going to do this directory into desktop to prevent any permissions issues. Listen, port 345, test file, dot, test file 4, dot text, and it's currently in use. So I'm going to change that to 1234, and there we go. Now it is listening for a connection on 1234. On the sending machine, type in nc dash w 3. Then you're going to need the destination machine's IP address. So it is Ubuntu Web. I know that to be 10.11.12.1. And then port that you're having the machine listen on. Then make sure you have these angled brackets in the correct orientation. For the receiving end, you want it to be to the right, and well, you want it to be opening to the left, and the sending end you want it to be opening to the right. And then the file that you're transferring, test file 4.txt, and then it should transfer. So there you have it. Two easy ways of transferring files between machines. You can either use PowerShell if you have it, or Netcat if you have it, or if you again have the capabilities of uh, using a server web host uh, like Apache, then you can simply just do it the way of putting it in the HTML directory and navigating to it through the web browser. All right, thank you for watching, and yeah, hope this helps.